Hello everyone and welcome back guys to more Knowing Wheel, where today we're here back for episode 54 of the Formula 1 based podcast. As always, I'm joined by Jamie183. How are we doing, mate?
I'm doing well, yeah. Had a good race over the weekend. Well, it was an alright race, we'll get into that later, but yeah.
Yeah.
We're back at it with the podcast. Glad to be here.
Yes, yeah, always good fun to get back into it, even, I should say. But of course, as always, if you're new around here and you do obviously are interested in the podcast, please check out the links down below. Spotify is the main one. We're trying to push every podcast on Spotify, so if you could give us a follow over there, it would be massively appreciated. We've also now launched a TikTok. Yes, I'm really sort of stretching around on TikTok more and more. Not just on my personal channel, but also now at Knowing Wheel on TikTok. If you want to sort of see clips and bits like that, help us, give us a follow. Massively appreciated. Of course, links to Bybit, links to Manscaped, and of course our clips channel here on YouTube. I'm going to try and get back in and start posting on there properly as well over the next few weeks. Am I forgetting anything, Jamie?
Your
F1 merch.
F1 merch. Yeah.
F1 merch. If you're interested, there's still a few days left on all the Miami drops. Now, that was actually going to be one of the first questions I wanted to ask you, Jamie, as well in just a moment. Okay. But yeah, plenty of links down below for you guys to check out. And obviously, again, it massively helps us and supports the podcast grow. But yeah, that accidentally then kind of leads us into a question for you, Jamie. What are your thoughts on the F1 Miami merch? Because I feel I'm the only person I know who really digs quite a lot of it.
I mean, it's very Miami, isn't it? The marketing has been on point for the whole race weekend, to be fair, including all the teams individually, and F1 as a whole has really sold the show as it is. Obviously, we don't really. I was watching a bit of FP3 and it was Montoya was in Europe you don't really get the whole show thing, but in America it's massive. Yeah. So they did a very good job generally. I didn't actually look at anything from in terms of buying anything because I just didn't really want it. So I haven't looked at actual products, but generally they all looked really good. Yes, yeah, I must admit, I think it was. I mean, we've had quite a few different big launches this week, haven't we? Pre-weekend. Alpine brought some fire merch to Miami. I thought they had a couple of good bits. Shame they ruined it by bringing out a bucket hat as well, which was a bit of a shame. The other one I wanted to ask you about, because again, I feel like I'm the only person that's really vibed with this, was the Mercedes NFT livery. I really liked it. I don't like the fact it's an NFT.
I can completely, again, obviously, the NFT side of things, completely separate conversation, but the actual design and the artwork they had was phenomenal, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was amazing. Yeah, very good from Mercedes. Recovering the livery a little bit back to how it used to be in terms of quality. I mean, the 2020 Mercedes is just the best car look of all time. Oh, honestly.
It was always, isn't it, Austria that year where they came out and someone had dubbed the Death Star music over it, wasn't it?
Literally.
Because Mercedes, back when they weren't a clown show.
Says the Hamilton fan among us.
Yeah, Hamilton and Russell. It's a painful time currently, but not only then, we'll actually get into a proper podcast discussion, Jamie. As always, timestamps linked down below if you're on YouTube. Mercedes, though, not only bringing some livery upgrades for Miami, but also bringing some actual car upgrades.
Yeah, so they've kind of been promising this kind of stuff since the beginning, especially since the first race when the roads were actually quite slow. The upgrades, especially European season, which I guess most of them will be in Spain, but some of them got bought early into Miami. They're always going to big themselves up, I think. And to be fair, Friday it looked like it was quite good. The porting wasn't as much of an issue as it was in Imola, certainly. And the car, I think Russell topped FP2 on a race.
P2 in FP. No, it was P2 in FP1, I think, wasn't he?
Yeah, I think he. But yeah, his race pace was right there. Yes, with Leclerc on the long run pace. So he said he was after Friday. Yeah, he topped FP2 by a 10th and was second in FP1. Yeah.
Yes.
So, yeah, he was kind of saying on Friday he was hopeful a shot at pole, which would be basically where you expect Mercedes to be, within touching distance of the top two teams.
Especially with Mr. Saturday and Lewis Hamilton in your car.
Yeah, and it all looked good until Saturday morning when they went back to where they were before, really. But they've probably got more to come, I'm sure. So it's not the end of the world.
Exactly. And I think, it was smaller changes, wasn't it, this weekend? I think it was a new front wing. They've now, I think they were testing out a rear wing concept as well, I want to say, on Friday for an actual lower downforce one. So they were sort of tweaking and changing a few things. And I guess this is the weird thing, isn't it? Of completely new regs, things like this, of course. It was Sainz getting towed away at Imola, wasn't it? That everyone got a good look at the floor. And then I think Verstappen as well, when he had issues. I can't remember which Grand Prix.
Melbourne,
I want to say,
probably.
I want to say it was in like a free practice session though, or something like that. But obviously now, where we're starting to actually be able to see other parts of each car, sort of other teams are kind of looking over each other's shoulder, aren't they? A bit like that Mr. Bean meme from all those years ago. But I mean, Friday was interesting, wasn't it? Of course, the good thing for us being European fans, now I don't know if it was the same for you, I quite like races at odd times. Now, for me personally, most days I'm at work. The latest I start work nowadays is 7 a.m. So Australia, for example, having to be up at 6 a.m. was not a problem at all. On the counter to that, though, I do quite like the late evening races as well.
I think I prefer morning races. There's something about the Chinese Grand Prix, Japanese Grand Prix that I just like. Where they're not ridiculously early, because Australia is always a bit of a hassle to get up that early.
Japan was always worse, wasn't it?
No,
I thought it was 5 a.m.
No, Japan's a bit... I think it's 7 a.m. usually. It's a bit later than Australia. But, yeah, I don't know. I almost like getting F1 out of the way, and I can get on with my Sunday.
It's weird, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, I guess where you kind of dedicate your whole day to it, isn't it? Or at least for me, anyway.
Yeah,
obviously,
it becomes like the main event. So when it's late in the evening, you kind of got nothing to do all day apart from wait. So...
Yeah, I suppose. I don't know. I guess where I sort of see it is I try and plan my day around F1. But if the race is really early in the morning or really late at night, effectively I've got a whole day anyway. And then I've got a Formula 1 race in there as well, which is nice. But yeah, anyway, go back to Friday, though. Like you said, Mercedes seeming like they'd been finding some more progress.
Yeah. I think overall they did make progress compared to Imola, because they're
learning, aren't they? Still,
and they were not the third fastest team in Imola. I don't think. Like Russell finished fourth.
Yes,
and Hamilton was out of the points.
13th.
And
I remember it painfully well.
I'd forgotten by now, but you have those memories burned into your brain.
I do, yeah.
So they definitely made progress. They were comfortably the third fastest team this weekend, which, while it isn't where they want to be, it's a good stepping stone at least. I'm
not sure you could argue anyone is comfortably third fastest still.
Maybe not, yeah. It's very close behind the top two. Bottas went
quicker in qualifying than both of them.
He did. Yeah. AlphaTauri right there in qualifying as well.
Yes, yeah. So. They had the race kind of fell apart for him, but qualifying was pretty good. I mean, we'll get onto that in just a moment. But of course, whenever we go to a new Formula 1 circuit, obviously a lot of it early on in the weekend is just, people making... sort of small mistakes here and there. We saw Verstappen rattle up against the wall at turn 16 a couple of times. Tsunoda do it once. Latifi as well having a few issues here and there. But I think the big talking point, wasn't it? Well, the two big talking points from Friday was, again, just how quick the track was evolving and how rubbish the track surface was.
Yeah.
And then, of course, Sainz's big crash at turn 12.
Yeah. Which didn't look great for Carlos at that point in the weekend, coming off the back of 2 DNFs in a row.
Yes. He's done the least laps of anyone this year in races.
Yeah. It didn't make that much of a difference in the end. So, yeah, he put it behind him quite quickly, but it was one of those another thing that could, drag him down a little bit. But luckily for him, it didn't seem to do that.
Yes, yeah. And I mean, it was a horrible little corner, wasn't it? I was quite surprised, because obviously, for those of you, cheeky plug here, obviously, I've had access to F1 2022, the game, for around about a week now. And it kind of, I had no idea sort of what to expect with Miami. But obviously, going on there and just how ridiculously tight that section of the circuit is really took me by surprise. But I guess the big discussion, wasn't it? Because obviously, again, going back to pre-weekend, of course, we got the new rulings on whether drivers can wear jewellery. Have to only wear fireproof underwear, and then you're going to get checked to make sure you are all this, that, and the other. Which, on the one hand, I can understand. It's certainly a grey area, isn't it, I think,
Yeah.
for a lot of people. Obviously, Hamilton's now got to have surgery, I think it is, to get some of his removed. So don't want to know what Fandangle thinks he's got
too
going
much
on.
information there from Lewis, but there
Exactly. But it's kind of that whole thing, isn't it, of they're focusing on that. You know, they're going to be checking Seb's underwear, which I'm sure there would be auctions for millions of pounds by Twitter people.
Twitter would love that, yeah.
Twitter would love that one. But then when Sykes and of course Ocon made the same mistake in FP3, they're both saying we need a tech pro here. And the FIA, they're like, it's alright. It's just a bit odd, isn't it? Because, I mean, Ocon, I think it was a 51G
it's over
crash.
50G, which should not be happening. Especially, like, you can almost understand it if it's a really high-speed section.
Yeah, not at those speeds.
A low-speed section, there's no way you should be going straight into a concrete wall. Like, there's just no need for it at all. So, it's a weird one why they're buckling down on some things and then just choosing to turn a blind eye to the fact that Ocon had to go to hospital for checks. So, like, don't know, weird one from the FIA, but they like to be seen to be doing stuff, don't they? So,
and I think
putting in new rules is always a good thing for them.
Again, isn't it? I can't remember the name of the. Is it Niels Wittich? I want to say is one of them. But yeah, I mean, they're obviously trying to sort of, I think, trying to stamp authority still, isn't it?
Yeah.
Within.
I think last year they let him get away with a lot of stuff overall. So they're trying to like let the teams know who's in charge again.
There is kind of that element, isn't there? I think still, obviously, after the end of last year, you know, there was all these talks, wasn't it, of, because I think it was a really weird scenario, wasn't it, where I think it was Spain, wasn't it, last year? We had the first team principal radio message streamed. Everyone kind of fell in love with it for some reason.
Yeah, everyone loved it.
And then immediately it got taken way out of control.
Yeah. And it should not have been broadcasted all year either, but that's a topic for another day.
Exactly. I mean, if we ever get a break week again, that can be something that is discussed. But yeah, it kind of feels like, obviously, Niels Wittich, and I did have the other guy's name up, and now I've lost it again. Eduardo Freitas, sorry. They've kind of obviously come in and are kind of just there, like, we're going to tell everyone this is how we're going to run this sport. And on the one hand, you kind of respect them for that, but on the other hand, you sort of think they're only going to respect you if you listen to them as well. I think it was Lando Norris came out saying, wasn't it, that sometimes the drivers do know where the danger is.
Yeah, like they do this for a living. Yeah, it's a strange one, but there we go.
Yes, and I mean, obviously, like we said, track evolution was massive over the course of the weekend, and of course, track evolution means absolutely the most when you get to a Saturday qualifying session, doesn't it, Jamie?
Yeah, because it's almost like being on a wet to dry track. It wasn't quite as that extreme, but it wasn't far off, where like the difference between the first run in Q3 and the second run was 2/10 easily, like just by doing the same lap.
And even then, drivers were saying offline, it felt like it was driving in the wet, which is kind of insane.
Especially that's pretty poor from the circuit, because at the start of a race, qualifying third is basically better than qualifying second, which shouldn't be how it is.
No.
But just by having the clean line, you just gain like a couple meters off the line, which effectively gets you a position, which we saw at the start of the race as well. For quite a few.
Yeah. Might be jumping the gun there slightly.
Yeah, slightly. We've got qualifying to go through first. Report. And Ocon, like we mentioned earlier, crashed in FP3, so wasn't able to take part. Quite a lot of damage to the Alpine. Starting last for the race.
Last question mark challenge inbound.
Yeah, he actually did quite well to do a last question mark, to be fair. But yeah, I didn't actually watch quali at all, so you might have to go through this bit.
I mean, to be fair, it wasn't... I think for me, I was kind of expecting it to be quite a crazy qualifying session. You sort of think, new track, everyone's worried, if you make a mistake, it's all over immediately. Big congestion, potential problems down in towards the final corners, which we pretty much only sort of see badly in Q1, of course, where there were 20 cars out on 19. Circuit. Yeah, it's 19 cars, sorry, wasn't it even? But, I mean, nothing too major. Both Williams out in Q1, they always seem to be a little way away in qualifying. Whether that's the car, whether that's the fact they've gone with the Dams tribute lineup is still to be decided.
Respect Alvin, he's doing well.
To be fair, race pace, he is actually quite good at the moment. That is certainly on the agenda later on in the podcast. Zhou Guanyu was a bit unlucky. He got held up right at the end of his final lap. You didn't see qualifying, but Jamie's definitely got a strong opinion on this.
He's been screwed over every race since Bahrain. So and he was screwed over in Bahrain with a clutch. So Yeah, it's not gone his way so far, but it'll come. It'll come.
Zhou Guanyu, famously Formula One's most unlucky driver.
Right now he is. 100% of your races being unlucky. I think only Marcus Winkelhock can rival that.
Okay. I could have sent us so far down the rabbit hole then. That would have been incredible. I guess the only major shock then at Q1 was actually Kevin Magnussen.
Yeah, Haas. They're very weird, aren't they? They're just like... You never know what to expect with Haas going into a race weekend. And this one, it seemed like they were a bit more off the pace than they have been at times. But also, Australia, they were like 9th fastest.
Yes, yeah. And I think this is...
It's sort of the midfield summed up, isn't it, really? Like, it's so tight that you can get one thing wrong, like your drivers are having an off day, or you get a setup slightly wrong, and you're suddenly going from, like, 8th to 18th.
Yes, yeah, and this is exactly the point Gunther Steiner's been trying to drive home over the last few races. You know, that midfield is insanely close. I mean, this is actually what I said pre-season, wasn't it, Jamie? I want every team to be able to fight for points each weekend.
And you're getting it, to be fair.
And so far, we're still getting it at the moment. Moving into Q2, though, I think this is where we saw probably the biggest shock of the weekend. And that was George Russell not even able to match his FP2 time.
Yeah, despite the track evolution that we just spoke about. Something went really backwards on the Mercedes overnight, and... Yeah, it's weird.
They said they didn't change the setup much.
Yeah, they didn't change anything. Maybe it was track conditions. It got a bit hotter, didn't it, on the Saturday?
But even that, everyone thought was going to play towards Mercedes' hand. This is why they seemed to be doing quite all right most of the weekend, was because the track was that warm. It was just very, again... And this is the odd thing, isn't it, with Mercedes? Because I know I get asked by sort of family and people at work and things like that going, oh, you know, George struggled in qualifying, didn't he? I'm sort of there like, Mercedes is still trying to learn, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's the big thing at the moment. So
I think that's what they were so good at in the previous 8 years. Like, they always knew what to do when their car was struggling, bar like maybe a few races in 2018 at the start.
I genuinely was going to argue the opposite, to be honest. Mercedes have never really been in a position where they've struggled, so they haven't needed to learn
I guess
in this
they don't
way.
need to learn that quickly.
Like, for example, Singapore 2014, when they had issues, they didn't really get them sorted the year after.
No.
That's
they were just fast enough to win in 2014 anyway.
That was just the only sort of big example, isn't it, of Mercedes really struggling. And I guess this is the thing as well, isn't it, when people obviously go, oh yeah, you know, George had a horrible qualifying session. At the end of the day, I don't genuinely believe Toto Wolff looks at that, and I think they'd rather have a session where they finish P12 and 13 and know what they did wrong, rather than finish 3rd and 5th, say, and have no idea how they managed it.
Yeah, it's that knowledge, especially when you can see already they're not going to win the title. Like, learning anything is better than just being confused and doing better.
Yes.
So...
You want to know where your performance is coming from or where it's lacking at the end of the day. And again, this is sort of what, you know, Mercedes kind of got dug in this pit, haven't they, recently, of going, you know, as they said on Friday, you know, our car without the porpoising is as quick as the Red Bull and the Ferrari, hypothetically.
Yeah.
And hypotheticals don't win world championships.
Doing an Eric Boulier from McLaren back in the day. Best chassis.
Oh, don't. Don't. That was just, our chassis is the best on the grid. So
and the
we'll
Honda engine striking it down.
And then we'll put a Renault power unit in and we'll still be nowhere.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Russell ended up out in Q2, P13 there. It's a shocking performance for him, especially after, you know, Hamilton's career is over, apparently, because how well Russell's been doing.
Look at the race result.
Exactly. Despite that, still thrashed him. But he was joined by Ricciardo, who was a long way off Lando at the end, or not a long way off, but surprisingly far away. Yeah, Lando seemed to smash out the lap in Q2 there and got away, and then it was Mick, Seb and Alonso, so really, three of the guys likely to retire in the next couple of years, out in Q2. One guy likely to get dropped and one guy seemingly in the Mercedes gulag for the rest of his life. But then we get into the spicy stuff, don't we, Jamie? Ready for Q3. Ferrari and Red Bull looking super close. First laps come in, Max Verstappen fastest by about 2/10.
Big margin, actually,
start.
In the first runs.
Yes, there was actually, to be fair. Second runs, Charles Leclerc, green through Sector 1. Carlos Sainz, purple through Sector 1. Max Verstappen, seemingly forgetting to do a qualifying lap.
Yeah. It wasn't the best for Max. I'm glad it happened on a Saturday and not a Sunday. But it was a bit of an unforced error, really, which you don't tend to see from Verstappen. So
I'm thinking of a certain fastest street circuit last year.
the greatest lap of all time until turn 27.
That still bugs me more than it should, how people claim that was a great lap.
Well, he didn't finish it, so
Exactly, it's not a lap.
it was annoying, but there we go. P3 on the grid is probably better than P2, as we said earlier. But
yes,
Sainz improved.
yeah, it didn't end up doing too badly.
No, Sainz improved to beat Max by 0.005 of a second.
Yep.
And Leclerc went fastest, but quite comfortably. I think it was almost 0.2, or was it over 2
Yeah,
tenths?
1.9 tenths.
Yeah. So, yeah, Leclerc gets another pole, the 12th of his career.
2 points in the bag on Saturday for me as well.
There's some points for Matt
predictions.
to pull it back, because I once again predicted Verstappen on pole.
Yep. Fanboy.
Yep. I'll take it. Ignore the Verstappen picture that's behind me.
Yeah, exactly. I think we also need to specify as well quickly. Should we get the elephant out of the room, Jamie? Because we have noticed we do go through the comments on the podcast and the.
I need to boost my ego when I get stuff right.
No, not even that, but I think we probably just need to categorically state right now, Bybit don't sponsor Jamie.
No, they
we're
don't.
going to quickly get
I'm
that
not getting paid anything.
Jamie doesn't get sponsored by Bybit. That is a personal sponsorship for me and the channel, not Jamie. So he's not.
If they're listening, I'll take a sponsorship if you're listening.
This is your chance to get your plug in, is it?
Yeah.
But yeah, no, we've noticed a few comments over the last couple of weeks going, Jamie only picks Verstappen because of his Bybit sponsorship. Not the case.
No,
He's
I
just
just
a
like
biased
Verstappen.
fanboy.
Yeah, say it how it is.
Exactly. But I guess the other big surprise in Q3, wasn't it, was Bottas. P5.
Yeah, the Alpha was decent. It has been all season, really.
I reckon they're the third fastest car. They've just got two useless drivers.
Not a chance.
Fifth in Imola.
Yeah, but they were behind Mercedes in Imola, so
Yeah, but it's because George is a beast.
yeah. And he got lucky.
He's literally apparently put Hamilton into retirement.
Yeah,
Oh,
Hamilton's edging on leaving F1 for good.
Washed up.
Yeah.
Washed up after
But
all
there we
this
go.
time.
And both AlphaTauris, like we said, getting Q3 for the first time in a
Yes.
while, it feels like.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Stroll somehow getting Q3 in an Aston Martin. So fair play,
Yeah.
out qualifying Vettel.
Exactly.
We've given so much flack for the Aston Martins, and they've been doing really well the last two races.
They've suddenly just, it was clearly the motivation we've given
Yeah,
them.
they must have been watching.
Actually get on with it, yeah. Which, again, like I said, it's nice to see as well. We might have spoken a little bit down on them at Australia, but, they're bringing it around slowly but surely. The race wasn't so brilliant, but we'll get into that.
It was kind of out of their control, but yeah.
To a certain degree. But yeah, that meant then, Jamie, we had a Ferrari front row, Red Bull second row for the start of the Miami Grand Prix. A step into the unknown. What might happen in the race?
Who knows? I missed the start, so I was listening to Jodie and Palmer on the radio.
I was setting you up then for the intro, and I completely forgot you missed the start. That was
Yeah.
awful podcasting.
I was running around Manchester looking for a pub to watch the F1.
The alcoholic
story.
lifestyle of the North, eh?
Yeah.
Whatever
There
has
we
it
go.
done to you? To be fair, I also completely forgot there in trying to set you up to talk about the race start. Both Aston Martins, seemingly with fuel issues pre-race though.
Yeah.
I thought it was a hark back to Hungary last year.
But
but
they just forgot to put fuel in the car
yes,
in
exactly.
time. So they both had to start from the pit lane, which ruined their, I think, were they 10th and 12th?
10th and 12th.
Yeah, that was the words. Yeah, where did they qualify? In
10th and 12th.
Yeah.
Bang on the money.
there we go. But it ruined it and made them start both from the pit lane. So not the best from Aston. These little issues they're gonna have to iron out because there were definitely a lot more points on the table than they got. So
Yes, yeah.
bit of a shame
Exactly.
for the drivers, but it's a team error. So
Yeah, and there was kind of that element as well, wasn't there, of, to be honest, you think new circuit, odd first section, perhaps being out of the way actually isn't such a bad
maybe.
thing. Because, we saw... The start wasn't too dramatic, was it? We saw, again, like we said, the big talking point was how badly were Perez and Sainz going to get screwed, starting on the inside for turn one, on the dirty line. Perez didn't do too badly. Sainz, however, did get mugged by Verstappen off the start,
it wasn't
which I
even
wasn't surprised by.
There wasn't even the launch though. Was the interesting?
No,
it
not
was fairly
particularly.
even. Verstappen maybe got the slightly better launch, but it was really on the brakes into turn one, which I guess also comes down to having the racing line. But yeah, it was a really good move from Verstappen, straight up into second place, and then kind of fell into the common pattern that we've seen this year, where Leclerc and Verstappen just drive off, which they did pretty quickly for everyone else.
Not at too much of an extreme, though. Perez and Sainz, I don't know whether it was a combination of new venue or what, but early on, Perez and Sainz were doing pretty well. Yes, yeah, there was a bit of that early on. I mean, the other sort of big talking point, wasn't it, was, of course, Fernando Alonso and Lewis Hamilton, 2007 rivals, back at each other again with some contact at turn 2. Didn't really affect him much, but it very much sort of, again, correct me if I'm wrong here, Jamie, you know, perhaps there's a little bit of fanboyism one way or the other. I'm happy to admit it if it is the case. Did kind of seem like, to me, Alonso was putting his nose in somewhere it didn't belong.
Yeah, it was a weird one. It was like, front right to rear left. So he was never really going to make the move. I don't think he kept the wheeling because it was Hamilton.
No, of course not.
But yeah, it was a very optimistic one from Alonso, but luckily nothing happened due to it. So.
No, I mean, it did push Hamilton back a couple of places, and Alonso basically spent the whole afternoon trying to do bump and runs, I think.
Yeah, it wasn't the best clean drive from Alonso all race through, really.
No,
but
all part of El Plan, isn't it?
Yeah.
At the end of the day. But yeah, so Hamilton sort of got relegated from 6th down to 8th. He was kind of wrong place at the wrong time at turn 1. And obviously, locked up and then was out of shape and then got hit and all this, that and the other. But did very quickly start to make progress again. I think he was
straight past Gasly, straight past Alonso.
Yes, by lap 3, he'd already was back up to where he started in the GP. To be honest, most of the race was pretty dull. I guess the only sort of things we had early on, wasn't it, was the hard tyres weren't really working. Zhou Guanyu had to retire.
Russell got passed by Albon. Because of the hard tyres.
Williams better than Mercedes confirmed.
Joe just overtook Ricciardo for 13th place, and then his engine broke. So, ruined chance of a points, because he was doing pretty well. Pace was there, as we saw with Bottas. So, could have scraped a couple of points by the end, but there we go.
Yeah, that unfortunately, like we said, the unluckiest ever F1 driver, Zhou Guanyu there. But we did get, albeit briefly, a battle at the front, which was nice.
Yeah, it was pretty exciting, actually. I think, as soon as Verstappen got inside the DRS, it was kind of a matter of time.
Yes,
with the straight on speed of that Red Bull was very helpful, which is the first time in about 12 years that it feels like Red Bull's quick on a straight line.
It is kind of mad, isn't it?
Yeah.
It just doesn't seem right.
No, it's like we've been so used to them going to Monza and suddenly not being quick anymore, but from back in the early 2010s.
Yes, I mean, it's weird, isn't it? Sort of when you look at it. Like, if you compare... I'm trying to compare, let's say, F1 2022 to F1 2018. Red Bull are 2018 Ferrari.
Yeah.
Ferrari are 2018 Mercedes. And Mercedes are 2018 Red Bull.
That's actually true.
It's really odd.
Yeah. But hopefully that doesn't mean that Leclerc's going to win the championship. But Verstappen's miles better than Vettel, so that's fine. There we go. See how many bites that one gets, despite it being a fact.
I was going to say, it's knowing wheel, Jamie, and you've known some wheel there.
Yeah, definitely. Nothing happened after that.
It's true.
Max got into the lead and drove off. And that was kind of it for about 40 laps.
Well, the only other thing we had, wasn't it, was Alonso after trying to murder Hamilton on that one, then tried it again on Gasly.
It was such a stupid move for Alonso.
Gasly shut the door, mate. Gasly
Alonso
shut the
wasn't
door.
alongside until at the apex. There was such a closing wedge that Alonso got a penalty for it as well. So that shows who's in the wrong.
Exactly.
But
sometimes
that had the knock-on effect, the Esteban knock-on effect.
That was such an. You cannot give me stick for saying Richard for sure anymore.
No, I might make that a thing, really. But Gasly trying to recover to the pits with broken steering or broken something, so his car wasn't pointing in a straight line anymore. Accidentally took out Lando Norris. So that actually caused something to happen. Norris had a very high speed spin, it felt like, but didn't hit the wall somehow.
Luck is how.
Yeah, it was complete luck. I saw someone praise one of the YouTubers who will remain unnamed praising Norris for not crashing into a barrier.
Will you put their name in the chat so I can see who it was? Okay. Because then I'll decide whether we want to name or not. Oh yeah, name and shame, mate. Name and shame.
Nah, you can do it. I'm not having that on my head. So apparently Norris did really well to keep out the wall when he literally let go of the steering wheel. But he was out the race on the spot. Gasly tried carrying on, but the steering was done, so also retired.
Yes.
So, yeah, not the best for either of those two. Alonso got a 5-second penalty, as we said, for causing both of those incidents, really. And that caused a VSC, and then a safety car about a minute later.
Yes,
Some people tried taking advantage of. I'm a bit confused as to why they didn't all do that. I think it was the lack of tyre choice was for quite a lot of them.
And bad timing around the lap. I think a lot of them were still worried about going offline, wasn't it?
Yeah, maybe. But yeah, usually when we see late race safety cars, like basically everyone pits, unless the guy in second wants to do the opposite of the guy in the first.
Yes, yeah.
But it was only Perez out of the front runners who made a stop.
And George Russell.
George was doing my strategy from league racing.
He literally did a Jamie League race where he was useless for a lot of them. Well, not useless, but Jamie used to be.
He just drove his own pace, not really doing much.
And then somehow every week gets a safety car.
Literally on the radio saying, shall we just wait for a safety car?
As Lando and Gasly murder each other.
Yeah.
I'm quite surprised that you've pinned the blame just on Gasly.
For what? It was Alonso's fault.
No, the crash with Lando.
Well, his steering was broken, so he was turning right and his car was going straight. So it wasn't deliberate.
But he was going left. To be fair, I thought it was 50-50.
Well, it was a racing incident. No one got a penalty, but it was because his car was damaged, I think.
But I kind of felt that Lando had come towards him as well at the same time, to be honest.
Yeah, maybe. It was a bit... They sort of went to each other, but
yeah,
neither of them were going to amount to much for the rest of the race, to be fair. So it didn't really matter.
No, and to be fair, like we said, it meant that for the first time in like 30 laps, something had happened in the GP, which, to be honest, we were quite thankful of, and I think the Miami hosts were probably very thankful of as well, because it had really turned into quite a procession up to that point. But it did mean lap 46 then, Verstappen, still in the lead. We then had Leclerc right behind him, Sainz in P3, and Sergio Perez, 4th place, fresh rubber, surely he's going to be able to win this one.
Oh, we forgot to mention Perez's engine issue, by the way. That was hampering him all race.
Yes. How did I completely forget about that?
Yeah, that's weird. Matt did the notes this week, so there you go.
I do the notes every week.
But Perez was right behind Sainz in the first stint, and then a sensor issue, so completely fell back about 5 seconds before they got it fixed, and then never really got back at Sainz. So he was on fresh tyres on the restart, but still with a lack of 20 kilowatts, I think, was the value.
Yes, I think the team was saying it was costing him about 0.4 a lap, weren't they?
Yeah. So even with DRS and the Red Bull straight on speed, he wasn't really close enough for a proper go at the race win, certainly. He could have got Sainz, I think, if stuff had played in his hands a bit better.
Yeah.
But unfortunately for him, that engine issue, hampered his progress quite a lot.
Yes, yeah, and I think sort of the exciting thing at the front, wasn't it, which I don't think any of us really expected, was then suddenly Leclerc seemed to be able to apply pressure to Max again out of nowhere.
I think the problem, so on the hards, once they stopped, the pace was really similar between Leclerc and Verstappen all race.
Leclerc had been closing back slightly later on.
But on the mediums at the start, Leclerc was just nowhere. I think he grained him immediately.
Yeah.
So, Leclerc, Verstappen built up an 8 or 9 second lead on the mediums and then just protected his buffer on the hards. But the pace was actually quite similar. So the safety car gave Leclerc a chance, and it was pretty exciting. He never had a proper go. No. He was definitely with him for a good number of laps on the restart.
Yeah, and I think this was the thing, wasn't it? Ferrari was that much better through the corners, which meant Leclerc could stay closer, but he just couldn't gain anything or anywhere near enough down the straights, didn't he?
Yeah.
But we did get a lot of carnage behind them, didn't we?
Yeah, the midfield was going mad. Felt like every time it just cuts to a Haas and an Aston crashing into each other.
I mean, Magnussen and Stroll is not a good racing combo.
No.
Let's be fair. You've got Mr. No Awareness and Mr. I'm just going to be a dick
respect.
to everyone. It was always... I mean, I think they both got warnings for weaving on each other, didn't they?
Yeah.
I think they came together about 3 times. And
Vettel passed both Haas's, or he passed Magnussen with a really good move, and then a lap later it cuts to Vettel behind both Haas's again.
Yes.
It's like, how's that happen then?
Yeah, we couldn't really work out exactly what was happening later on in the day. We then also had George and Lewis battling it out for battle of whether George is decent or Hamilton's washed up, apparently. Which the funniest bit about that still was Valtteri Bottas in front of them. He'd been 5th pretty much all day long and had a fantastic run. And then he was apparently watching the battle in his mirrors and ran
drove
wide
into a wall.
down at turn 17, which is just the most Bottas thing in the world.
Yeah, he saw 2 Mercedes in his mirrors and was like, right, I got to let these through. So, yeah, not it was a bit of an uncharacteristic mistake from Bottas, but yeah, it cost him
But
5th.
weirdly not at the same time.
No, yeah. So he went wide at 17, let both Hamilton and Russell through. They had a pretty decent battle. Russell made a move on Hamilton, but went off track to do it. So Russell got told to let him back through again, just to pass him again a lap later. So,
yeah, it was always going to happen.
It was fresh mediums for Russell versus really old hards for Hamilton. So, yeah, that's 3 out of 5 races that Russell's got lucky with a safety car.
3 out of 5 or 2 out of 5?
Maybe only 2. No, Jeddah got lucky and Hamilton didn't.
Did he?
Yeah, he got the VSC pit and Hamilton didn't.
Ah, yes.
And
yeah.
obviously Melbourne he did, and Miami he has as well. So,
yeah, George Russell, Mr. Luck.
Mr. Safety Car Merchant. Like myself back in the day, but there we go.
Back in the day.
Back to the front of the grid. Perez was trailing Sainz pretty close. Had one go at him down his turn 1. Was pretty wild.
I was going to say, Perez is just bizarre, isn't he?
Yeah.
But this is the thing, isn't it, with Checo? 99% of the time, he's a very cool, calm, collected driver. And then suddenly, he just seems to take inspiration from Magnussen out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And just goes full send on someone in a completely uncalculated fashion. I mean, it could have easily been both of them out had Sainz not finally seemed to have got his act together and remember what he's doing in an F1 car.
Yeah, and they still almost crashed despite Sainz doing his best to avoid it.
Yes.
So, yeah, Sainz was able to see that one off. Perez also probably flat-spotted his tyres quite badly, going for a wild one into turn 1. Yeah, didn't really much happen for the rest of the race. Perez just came home in 4th, and Sainz came home 3rd for another podium. So
exactly, the top 4 were pretty much sorted after that.
Yeah,
we did get one more piece of heartbreak though, didn't we, Jamie?
Oh, I found it really funny. So I'm not a Mick Schumacher. I'm not a huge fan of him, to be fair, but there we go.
He hasn't delivered, I think it's safe to say. But you can kind of understand, it was probably the last person he wanted to crash into.
No, yeah. So it was very unfortunate.
He was battling with Ocon, wasn't he? Mick Schumacher.
Actually,
in the points.
did you see the clip someone shared into our chat earlier from F1 TV of Schumacher's on board for that lap?
No.
Because what gave it, Schumacher was in 10th place, just behind Alonso, in DRS of Alonso.
Yes, sorry, I do know what you're
everyone behind him. So he had, Vettel and Ocon behind him at that point.
Yeah.
Alonso then decides he can't be bothered doing the chicane in the slow speed section. He has a 5-second penalty at that point, so he's basically trying to break the toe. So he just decides to straight line the chicane.
And we mean completely...
We mean, this is completely serious.
League racing style.
Yeah. Straight out of a sprint lobby, Alonso just drives off, gains over a second on Schumacher. Then Schumacher's obviously out of DRS range of Alonso. That causes him to get passed by Ocon immediately. And then down into turn 1, Schumacher tries to come back. He got passed by Ocon and Vettel actually in turn 17.
Well, Vettel did a banging move on the pair of them.
Yeah, so Vettel got 2 in 1. Ocon got past Schumacher and lost the place to Vettel at the same time. And then in turn 1, both of them... was it both? Maybe it was Schumacher trying to get past Vettel?
Schumacher, got another run. He got a run past Ocon in towards the final S section, if you will. Yeah. And then was slipstreaming 7 to T1.
And went for a move that was... I think it was hit more on him than it was on Vettel, to be honest.
70-30, I would say now, looking back at it more.
Because he wasn't going for the apex. There was more space on the inside, I think, which kind of led to the contact. Vettel left enough space for a car, but Schumacher was too far to the left, so they made contact. Both of them had the chance of the points ruined. Alonso did get another 5-second penalty for straight line and chicane, which he has a bit of history doing back in his final race of his last F1 career.
Back in the McLaren days.
Yeah, when he just got fastest lap on his last race because he felt like it. Didn't bother with turn 11 at Abu Dhabi. But there we go. Was it? No, would have been turn... The first
12
chicane,
and
wasn't
13, yeah, I think.
Yeah.
End of the second chicane, wasn't it? He kept cutting for some reason.
But, Alonso's a bit weird. Schumacher and Vettel taking each other out and then having a joint interview again at the end, which was quite amusing. that left Ocon to pick up P8 from last on the grid.
Yes.
Which he did get quite lucky because he was basically anonymous all race and then went on to softs at the end with a safety car.
He kind of just appeared there, didn't he, out of nowhere in the end? Which was an underrated drive, looking back at it, to be fair.
He's been very good this whole season, to be fair to Ocon.
He has.
Somehow Alex Albon does the same thing, just appears in P9, like he did in Australia, really. Apart from P10 back then, obviously. But
well, he was P10 on the road, wasn't he? But obviously, Alonso's penalty.
Alonso's. And Stroll picked up a point from the pit lane as well. So,
yes. Yeah, a lot of good drives from the back, to be fair, to all of them. But, I mean, if you include Mick as well there, 6 DNFs. Obviously, I know Mick Schumacher made it to the end.
And Magnussen stopped
but effectively
at the end
he was
as well.
out of it. Yeah, Magnussen stopped for some reason.
I think he crashed into Stroll.
Probably.
For about the 5th time that race, probably.
Yeah,
so he was initially classified as a DNF, but then eventually did get classified as a finisher, which saved our fantasy teams quite a few points.
It did. It did really save our fantasy teams a few points, which we'll discuss in just a moment. But, yeah, I mean, looking back through then, of course, Max Verstappen taking home the win ahead of both Ferraris and Sergio Perez. Merck's 5th and 6th there. Russell got the better of Hamilton once again. And then Bottas kind of avoiding all the carnage going on behind him whilst trying not to hit any more walls. Ocon, Albon and Stroll ran out the top 10 there. And then Alonso, Tsunoda kind of had a quietly disappointing afternoon in the end. Ricciardo as well was pretty much nowhere. And then obviously Latifi kind of just Latifiing. He pit onto a set of mediums later on in the afternoon and was still losing time to the cars in front. Which
he was a pit
this
stop
was
behind,
before the safety car, wasn't it?
Everyone made their first stops and Latifi was still last.
Yes.
That's how Latifi it was for him.
Exactly, and then Mick Schumacher did drag a wounded car home for P15 there. I had a K-Mag, Seb, Gasly, Norris and Guan Yu Zhou all not making it to the checkered flag there. Disappointing afternoon for AlphaTauri, I think it's safe to say, as well as McLaren,
both cars
of course.
In the top 10 as well.
Yeah, I mean, was they the only two teams that didn't score? No, Haas didn't either, sorry, yeah. So, I mean, 7 teams scoring points isn't crazy, but not bad either still.
No.
At this stage of the game. Again, Williams getting more points on the board. Aston Martin getting more points on the board. You'd love to see it. I'm really worried that we could see by the end of the year, Haas still end up last overall, despite having a fairly decent car. I don't think so. I'm not
If Schumacher gets his act together, they should beat Aston and Williams.
Wouldn't surprise me if they didn't. Put it that way.
They've got a better car than AlphaTauri as well at the minute, I think.
It, again, like we say, it's
very,
so difficult
very tight,
to call, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a weird one, but there we go.
Constructors-wise, I'm just having a look quickly at the
So they're 9 ahead of Aston and 12 ahead of Williams.
It wouldn't genuinely surprise me.
It's a long season, but if the pace stays as it is now, I don't see them losing to those two teams.
Yes, yeah. But I mean, it has to be fair, that race weekend's results have made things rather interesting as well. 19 points now, the gap between Charles and Max in the championship.
Yeah, less than a race win for the first time in a while.
Yes, yeah, that gap's definitely coming down rather quickly. 6 points in it between Ferrari and Red Bull as well, which is certainly getting interesting. And I just always find it weird how Mercedes have had such an awful start to the season, yet they've still got more than twice the points of anyone behind them.
Yeah, because everyone else has only really been having one car do anything.
Yeah.
So
it is completely at the moment, isn't it? Having easily the 2 best drivers of those 7 teams, isn't it?
Yeah. Because you look at McLaren.
I should say, including Mercedes.
Like, genuinely, all of those teams, you've got probably an 80% point scoring by one driver.
Yeah, you've got Lando carrying McLaren, Bottas carrying Alfa Romeo, Ocon weirdly carrying Alpine. Yeah. Tsunoda, to be fair, has done very well against Gasly this year.
Gasly's got mad unlucky so far with DNFs.
Not helped, I completely agree, but Tsunoda completely had the pace over him in Imola.
Yeah, he did, to be fair to him.
And then...
But, yeah. Haas is only Magnussen.
Only K-Mag scored.
Aston's quite equal, but the car's just not there. And Williams is only Albon. So.
Yes, yeah. I mean, it is really a case of hopefully Mick Schumacher scores this year. But I mean, if I
He's
say
got
Latifi,
to at some point.
If I say Latifi won't score this year, we'll do an Aston Martin and suddenly come like P8 next week.
Latifi won't score unless we go to the Hungary.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, we'll wait and see. We'll wait and see, won't we? Driver of the day, then, Jamie. Who are we going with?
I'm going to not give it to Max, so the comments shut up. But please do comment your drive of the day below.
Yes, yeah, please.
I'm going to give it to Alex Albon. I think he did really well. So
It's a very good shout, isn't it? I think sort of looking through the grid, there's definitely a few notable ones, isn't there? Albon is one of them. Stroll as well, for a man that we often give a lot of grief to. Last to points is not bad going. Ocon as well, pit lane to points as well.
Kind of was his own fault that he was didn't do qualifying anyway.
Who's that, sorry?
Ocon. The only reason he was last was because he crashed it in FP3.
Yeah, but it was an unlucky crash still, wasn't it? To be fair to him. George Russell as well, to be fair, got lucky in the end, but it was his own strategy call. So you've got to give him some respect there. I think I am going to say... I'm going to give it to Esteban Ocon. Quiet, decent drive for my driver of the day.
Fair
now,
enough. There we go.
Let's get in to the more important stuff.
We haven't revealed this to each other yet.
No.
So I feel like you've probably beaten me. But I went a bit rogue.
F1 Fantasy Time. We didn't introduce that, Jamie. We just kind of started talking gibberish. It's F1 Fantasy Time, people. Get your teams out. Have a look how many points. Here's the question, Jamie. This week, how many points did you score?
Now, I backed the driver streaks and the race streaks and stuff.
Yeah.
So I made quite a few changes.
Now, have you picked consistent drivers who have finished every week?
No.
You're going to struggle to pick up streaks. That's why I've been sensible this year.
No, but you get them in when they're about to get their streak. That's the thing.
Right. Okay.
But it didn't really work because Alonso then didn't get his quality streak because he went out in Q1 and Q2.
Yeah.
But I got 202 points.
Oh!
So you've probably beaten me.
Oh! I got 197.
Really?
No, I got 241.
No, I was going to say, that's trash.
241.
Right. Nice.
I think that is my best score of the year so far, I want to say.
It was quite a kind week for F1 Fantasy in terms of the popular picks. Yes. Quite well.
Yeah, this was definitely my best score so far of the year. I mean, I'm still not 100% sure how Leclerc got 100. Oh, no, it must have been obviously from bonuses, wasn't it?
Yeah, he had a quality and race streak, so Leclerc was the best turbo. Though, newsflash, he's above 19 million now. So you can't turbo anymore.
He's still turboed on mine, apparently.
Maybe if you don't update it, it's okay.
Yeah, he's still turboed on mine.
Oh, you can. Oh, maybe it's 19.1 he has to get to then.
And looking towards Spain, I've got streaks on Perez hopefully going to come in, and on Ferrari, which would be nice.
Yeah. So, I went rogue. I chose this was the race to get rid of Ferrari as a constructor. So my team ended up being Verstappen, Leclerc, Russell, because he had a quality streak. No, he had a race streak, sorry.
Yep.
Alonso had a quality streak, which he didn't get, and Magnussen for the budget. And Alfa Romeo was my team.
I'm trying to work out how... So you've basically got Perez instead of... Sorry, you got Verstappen instead of Perez over me. Who was your team, sorry?
Verstappen, Leclerc, Russell.
No, who was your team?
Oh,
sorry,
Alfa
your
Romeo.
constructor.
Right,
okay. That's where you've saved a lot of money then. Not a bad shout, to be fair. Alfa Romeo, I think if they can get their second driver doing
in terms of budget, they're okay, but they're nothing compared to the might of Ferrari.
No, exactly.
Or Red Bull, but you can't really afford them.
Yeah, I mean, I've kind of accidentally now got a quietly consistent lineup, haven't I? This is why I've been scoring good points all year. I've got Leclerc, Russell... I mean, I haven't changed mine still. I've got Leclerc, Russell, Perez, Albon, Ferrari, and Magnussen still, which, I mean, all of those...
Albon's been a good shout, to be fair.
Albon has been... Since I put him in, he's scored points in 2 of the 3 races.
Yeah.
I've done well putting Albon in my team.
I think you're probably ahead of me overall then.
Annoyingly. I definitely am, because there were like 3 points between us heading into this week, wasn't it? Let's head over then, Jamie, to the league. 4,393 of you now in. We're trying to hit 4.5k. Get yourself involved. Links down below. This was by far and away my best week so far of the year. 241 points, like we said. Do you want to do our top 10 from Miami, or do you want to do our top 10 from the season?
I'll do the top 10 from Miami. I've got it open.
Okay.
So, there we go. We've got Aman C in first with 375, which is an awful lot of points. Verstappen, Megad, Leclerc Turbo, Red Bull is the team, so that's a lot of money, and then Albon, Bottas, and Magnussen. So that's a lot of points.
3 not bad choices, to be fair. He's done well.
I don't think you could do much better than that, to be fair. And then, so that was first place. Second place got 14 less with Ben D. None of these teams have good names in the top 2, unfortunately. That was, again, Verstappen, Mega, Leclerc Turbo, Bottas, Magnussen, Ferrari and Ocon were the differences for the other one. So, yeah, not quite as good, but still second place, so fair play. All of the top 10 did use their Mega, I assume, on Verstappen with Turbo Leclerc. And yes, indeed, third place with Chris Y as well. Did the same thing, but had Stroll. Relentless Comics Racing, Oliver T in fourth. Did the same thing. Verstappen Mega, Leclerc Turbo with Bottas, Ferrari, Alonso and Magnussen. Fifth place, we had Natalia M with a risky team, so paying off this race. And also had Gasly with DNF, so that's unfortunate. Could have done a lot better if you had even like Sonoda, which, yeah, unfortunate for that. Scuderia Wickham in sixth from Canada. And then we've got Sid V, Latrina P, and Sim F, and Zonda D rounding out the top 10.
Good. Congratulations to all of you if you made it into the top 10 this week. Has meant, though, Jamie, we've got a bit of a shuffle round overall at the top of the league. Larry T now on top, 1,228 points. Now, I've just had a look on the global league. He's about 250th in the world.
Wow, fair
which
play.
Is kind of mad when you look at it, because I think, there's 1.5 million people now in the global league. Yeah, 1,228 points for him. He's actually got a little bit of a buffer at the top there.
He's not got Leclerc either in his team. Wow.
He has not got Leclerc. No, you're absolutely right. He did Mega Driver this weekend. He had Verstappen, Perez, Schumacher, Magnussen, Bottas, and Red Bull. So
he's gone Red Bull, Haas, and Bottas.
Yes.
And that's a fair play.
Exactly.
It's
a gamble. It's a gamble. Willem, P2 overall, though, 1,210. Ahead of Ray T, just 1 point further back there. Andre G, 1,207, ahead of Edward C. And then Oliver T, who you just mentioned, sixth place overall on 1,200 points on the nose. I'm going to pronounce... It's not Guilherme, is it?
It's Guilherme.
Guilherme, sorry. I'm
For
always
our
going to get it
Brazilian
wrong.
listeners and Portuguese listeners.
He is Portuguese. Yep, 1,189 points there. And then we've got Argelia on 1,185 there. Tied with Chris Y. And then it's Jerry B. Hair? I don't know. I'm probably going to butcher that. I'm so sorry. The Argentinian rounding out the top 10 there as well, overall in the league. So congratulations again. If you're in the top 10, let me know, or let us know even, I should say, where you're ranking now overall as well in the league.
Where are you ranking, Matt?
This was what I was just about to ask you, Jamie. How many points are you on overall now?
I'm on 989.
Oh!
So you're over 1,000.
I didn't realise they still did scores in the 3 digits.
That was coming. I am 1.09k, so I'm not even in the top K anymore.
Oh, I'm smashing it, mate. I have got 1,026 points. I'm sat in 736th.
Wow. So it's still really close packed in midfield. That's
Top 20%? Less than... about
I'm
top
top
16%.
25.
Yeah, I mean, my aim, I think, by the end of the year is top 1,000 still, because I will throw it away quite soon. And I'm looking... There's a lot of people ahead of me that have used their Mega Driver.
Yeah, loads of people use Megas already. We need to time that well.
Yeah, I'm sort of thinking, if I get, say... let's say a pessimistic one is, 50 bonus points for a Mega? I'm going to be right knocking on the door of the top 250.
Yeah, smashed it.
I'm trying to get in there.
Let's restore some pride for myself by moving on to predictions.
Yes.
Do you want to talk us through what happened, Matt?
I felt like I did a lot better this week, and somehow we scored exactly the same amount of points.
Yes, I like the scoring system because it rewards luck.
It's not luck necessarily,
Actually,
but it rewards backwards logic, it feels like a lot in this series, doesn't it?
Yes.
Jamie scored 4 points by virtue of guessing Verstappen and Sainz perfectly for the weekend there, first and third there. He predicted Sainz to be third because he was expecting Leclerc to have a nightmare and Red Bull be quicker, rather than Sainz actually beating Perez. So that's how he got 4 points there. I got Leclerc correct, and then in qualifying, that is, sorry, and then got Leclerc and Verstappen the wrong way around. So I picked up 2 points in qualifying and then 2 points in the race there, 2 singular point bonuses, which did mean overall it was 4 each this week, wasn't it? Which I think brings the score now 13 to 20.
Yes.
So
I'm actually smashing it. That's an average of 4 points per race.
That's not bad going.
That's
to
2 correct predictions.
Out of a possible 8, you're doing okay.
Yeah.
Is the way I'm going to describe it.
But yeah, we'll get onto our Spain predictions next week.
Yes.
In the preview show. So yeah. But let us know if you're playing along for predictions. well, don't do that. He's just going to lie and say you got 80 points. So,
80?
Wait, no. How many's the maximum? It would be
so far this year, 40.
42 because of the sprint.
Yes, yeah, 42 points. Sorry, got it.
How many out of 42 have you got?
Final thing then, Jamie. What are we giving it out of 10? The Miami Grand Prix.
Yeah, I feel like every race I've either given a 6 or an 8 so far. So I'm going to give it a 6 because it was actually quite interesting in very limited sections.
Small doses, yeah.
Yeah. And there was, much like Imola really, there was a middle section that was very dead, but the start and the end were very exciting. So I'll give it a 6.
I'm going to give it a 7. Just because the end was quite chaotic and we kind of had 2 separate battles with Leclerc and Verstappen as well there. Not the best race in the world, but not the worst either. Now, I guess kind of the last thing really we need to discuss this week then, Jamie. Has the Miami Grand Prix worked? I mean, we'll probably discuss this a bit more next week, won't we? But
yeah, I think it's hard to argue no for that, to be honest. The amount of hype that it got around it, and from people that I've seen who were there, it feels like a lot of the fans who went to watch it are not F1 fans, which I think is ideal.
It's exactly what F1 is going for.
Yeah, because you don't get new fans unless new people come and watch. It sounds really stupid, but like gatekeeping the sport is not a good idea.
No.
So to grow the fan base, you go to new places that are exciting to be at and put a race there, which is what they've done, and it's worked off quite well. It
certainly has this weekend, hasn't it? I mean, a lot of it, I think we can sort of safely say, you know, as big long-term F1 fans, you know, there's a lot of cringe. There's a lot of it, you know. Martin, I don't know if you saw the tweet by Martin Brundle today.
I did.
His
Yeah,
tweet earlier on,
tweet,
sort of saying he's always hated doing the grid walk, and weekends like this weekend, you can't blame him because he's stood there with some DJ Khaled going another one. He's got no idea who he is. Obviously, when you go to like Silverstone and stuff, you know, you've got people there that you can kind of get the sense of trying to find Martin as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think we can moan about the cringe, everything like that. But at the end of the day, Formula One isn't trying to target you or I. They've already got us locked in.
No, exactly.
We'll sit through it and moan about it on a podcast. But at the end of the day, they're targeting people they need to. And as a shareholder in Formula One,
you must be getting stonks.
That. No, I'm not. We won't talk about what the market's doing at the moment, Jamie. Never mind inside Formula One, just generally.
That'll be the next podcast.
Yeah, Matt has to sell everything to be able to run the podcast.
Matt's doing this from a box next week.
Yes, exactly. But anything else to add though, Jamie, before we round this one out?
I don't think so. I think that's basically everything.
No, I think we've done pretty well, haven't we, this week? Our final sort of single header event, done and dusted, unless, of course, Russia doesn't get a replacement. We're in for a long season now, aren't we? It feels like this is kind of like the prequel, doesn't it? And now we're really getting into the nitty gritty. We've got off weeks, but we've got off. Yeah, but we've always got a double header now, which is kind of mad between now and the end of the year. Like
expect some long podcasts.
Yes, there's going to be a lot of podcasting to get through over the next few months. But thank you all so much for listening nonetheless. If you have enjoyed, please do make sure you leave a like, get yourself subscribed. Like we said, links to Spotify, TikTok, clips, everything like that will be down below. You know, Bybit as well, a massive thank you to them. And then obviously F1 merch as well. You know, like we mentioned, a few more days to pick up your F1 Miami merch as well. Get yourself involved if you want some of that. It's greatly, greatly appreciated. You do really help support the channel. Thank you all so much for listening, and we'll be back next week then with more Knowing Wheel.